right, so today we're going to look at a little more on solving equations. Okay, yesterday we solved equations using what two properties? Or what two operations? Gemini? Multiplication and division. What about the day before? Addition and subtraction. And now today we're going to see problems that might have both. Maybe you have to add and multiply, or add and divide. You'll see two operations. Okay, so it's using the properties that we just learned from Tuesday and Monday. I think we already, we just went through this together.
Yeah.
Sorry. Somehow I deleted a page. And it's back. Okay, so those are the different properties. When you have to add to both sides, that would be, I'll just give you an example.
Thank you guys, you'll have to write this down.
That's an example where you would add to both sides. Can somebody give me an example where you would subtract from both sides? Just a simple equation.
X plus 3 equals 4.
Equals what?
4.
Okay. How about multiplication? Can somebody give me a problem where you would have to multiply both sides by a number? Gemini?
X divided by 5 equals 2.
Perfect. X divided by 5 equals 2. And lastly, can somebody give me a problem where you would need to divide? Yep, Sophia?
X times 5 equals 2.
X times 5 equals 2. Yep, so we could write it as x times 5, or you could put 5x, same thing. Perfect.
And guys, what do you notice about all the variables? Obviously, all the variables are x. What else do you notice about them? What don't they have? All the variables.
The same.
They're all x, right? But what don't they have attached to it, Mallory?
Number.
They don't have a number, right? So today, we're going to get into stuff where there's going to be a variable attached to the number. It might say like 2x plus 3 equals 5. Something like that. So you're going to have 2 steps in that situation.
Yep. So all the problems today will require the 2 steps. All right, so we're going to kind of give you guys like a word you can remember. It's already on your sheet, like the first letter, Sam. And this word is going to be used to help you remember how to solve equations. You know how we have PEMDAS?
Yeah.
PEMDAS is used when you have arithmetic. SAM is what you can use when you're solving an equation. That's different than arithmetic. So simplify. Now, the steps that we give you, you might not have to do every step in every problem. Okay? But these are just the steps that could come up. All right? So if there's a distributive property in the problem, that's the first thing you have to do under simplify. Use the distributive property.
So on your notes, you can have a blank S. So next to it, you're just going to write the rest of the word simplify. And then you have your first little, I don't know what you want to call this thing, little arrow. You'll write use the distributive property. And I think, is this on there? A little graphic?
No.
It's on there.
So we're not going to go through example 1 yet. Well, I'm going to show you all the steps first. But looking at example 1, can anyone tell me, is there a distributive property in example 1? No. There's no distributive. We just practiced that in the warm-up. Okay? So this particular problem doesn't have this step. Okay. The next step, still under simplify, is to combine like terms. So you look at a problem on the same side of the equal sign.
Yeah, you can only combine like terms if they're on the same side.
Okay, we're not talking about moving things from one side to the other yet. We're just talking about, if you look at this side, are there 2 things there that you could combine together?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what are they? You don't have to tell me what it is. We'll get back to that. But what are the 2 things you could combine?
3y and negative 5y.
Exactly. You can combine the 3y and the negative 5y.
Joe, I like that you said -5. Because even though it's a minus sign, it's still to the left of that 5y. So that means negative belongs to that.
So when we go back and solve it, we're going to have to do that step, combine like terms. Okay, so under the next bullet, the A, okay, that stands for addition and subtraction. So this is the step when you're solving the equation now. If you need to add or subtract to move something from one side to the other, that's what you do now, okay, addition and subtraction. Okay, and remember how we do it? You do the opposite operation. So if you have like x plus 5 equals 6. To get rid of a plus 5, what's the opposite operation of plus 5? Yeah?
Minus 5.
Minus 5. Okay, so that's what we mean by use the opposite operation. Okay, anybody have a guess what the last letter stands for? There's two operations, and these are the last two you deal with. Xander? Yeah, multiplying and dividing. So once you get to this step, you'll probably have a problem like this. Okay, once you get to the multiply or divide step, that's what your equation should or could look like, one of two options. So now you identify the number with the variable. And in this case, the problem I just wrote on the board would fit this first bullet. Okay. Divide both sides of the equation by that number.
So what it means is that if the number attached to the variable is a whole number, right, not a fraction, then you just divide both sides of the number attached to the variable.
Now, what happened if the number attached is a fraction? What would you do in that case?
You would, so flip the thing and multiply it, so like it would be like, you'd flip it so it'd be 3 over 2 times 2/3.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, but you would do that to both sides, so then it would be 12 over 1 times 3 over 2.
Yes.
But you could simplify the 3
So if it's a fraction, that you're going to multiply both sides by what Joe just said when you flip the fraction. Multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal.
And guys, that works even if it's an improper fraction. What do I mean by that? What does that mean, improper fraction? Anybody know? Sophia?
It's where like the denominator, or the larger number is on the top and the smaller is on the bottom.
Yeah, the number on the top is bigger than the number on the bottom. You could still get that. You'd still do the same thing. Flip it, multiply on one side, multiply on the other side. That way you flipped.
Remember, sometimes it's not always a fraction that's in front. Sometimes it's just a fraction like that. Okay? Sometimes it's just a fraction. You still have to multiply there. But what would you multiply each side by here? About Paige?
We would multiply 3 by 2 both sides.
Yep, you'd multiply both sides by 3. So in that case, you don't have to quite do what Joe said and flip like it was in this problem and multiply. You just have to multiply by the 3.
Multiply by the number on the bottom. Because there's no number on top.
Okay, so any questions or anybody still need to copy down any of the steps? So that's kind of your order you should follow anytime you're solving an equation. Okay? Simplify, addition and subtraction, finish with multiplication.
You guys, I could be wrong. I don't think we'll do any today that have distributive property. I think tomorrow we'll follow the same steps, but the ones we do tomorrow will have distributive property.
Okay, so that's a problem that has 2 steps. Okay. what's my first thing that I always look for according to the directions we just wrote? Even if it's not in this problem. Still double check. Actually, did I skip example 1? Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's do example 1 first. And then we'll do example 2 after example 1.
Guys, example 1's on the right-hand side of your, of the notes you just took down, of all the steps.
So same question I just asked. What's the first thing I need to look for here? Even if it's not necessary. I should always check for it. Joe?
Do you think that you could combine?
Even before that. Something we have to check before we combine like
Even though
terms.
it's not there. Because you know, sometimes you may not, like the steps we just wrote, you may not have all of them. You may skip 1 or 2.
Xander?
Use the distribute here properly?
Yes. Do we have to do that here?
No.
No. So we don't have to do it here. Now we can go to what Joe just said, which was combine like terms. And earlier, I think you told us, Joe, it was the...
Mr. Hager, how do you know that there's no like term? I mean, how do you know there's no distributive property?
Because there is no parentheses.
So parentheses, perfect.
So what did you say to combine, Joe?
You combine the 3y and negative 5y,
3y and negative
so
5y.
that would be negative 2y.
Perfect. Anything else on the left-hand side still?
Well, to combine, so then it would be plus 7 equals negative 9.
Perfect. Plus 7 equals negative 9.
You guys, if you want to circle them, if you want to circle like terms, you can do that. You don't have to. I know some people that works better, so they can see them a little bit easier. If you just solve it, that's fine. But again, don't get confused with your signs. The sign to the left belongs with that number. It's a negative 5. So if you want to do that in your calculator, right, you have to put 3 minus 5, not 3 negative 5. It won't work. You have to put 3 minus 5.
All right, so we did combine like terms. Ginny, what's the next thing I would do? After simplify.
We did the first bullet.
Yeah, do we have any addition or subtraction that we would need to do here?
And Ginny, on that addition and subtraction, on the notes we took, it says identify the number on the same side of the equal sign. The number only, not the number with the variable, just the number.
All right, we have a plus
Yeah,
7.
7, good.
So how would you get rid of that and put it on the other side? Yeah, what would you subtract? Subtract 7. Yep. Good. So subtract 7. Positive 7 minus 7, that's gone. We get negative 2y equals, Mallory, can you tell me what negative 9 minus 7 is?
Negative 16.
Good, negative 16.
You guys, on that step Mr. Hager just did where he subtracted 7, it's not like plus negative 7. Right? The opposite of positive 7 is negative 7. Right? You want to put the opposite of whatever that number is, the opposite operation. I saw some people the other day when we were doing some practice problems, they put like plus negative 7. I fell a little sign on this, I'm going to screw you up.
Okay, so now we've done the addition subtraction step. Now you're down to the kind of problem you would have seen in class yesterday. This is now a one-step problem. Connor, could you tell me what my last step would be in that problem?
Figuring out y.
Okay, and how would you figure out y?
Put the 2 with the y.
Got to get y by itself, right?
Yeah, put
How do-
2 on both sides.
And what do you want to do with that number on both sides? What?
Subtract.
So we've already done the addition and subtraction. So now we're,
Multiplying and dividing.
yes, do you know which one of those to do?
Right.
Divide, yep. And can you just say the number again to divide by?
2.
Careful.
Negative 2.
Negative 2. Remember that sign goes with the number. Negative 2, negative 2. When you divide that out, those cancel. And I just have to finish up. Negative 16 divided by negative 2. So we reviewed this, I think last Friday. Yeah, negative divided by negative gives me a positive. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Okay, so that problem had really 3 steps. Combine like terms, subtraction, division. Okay, 3 steps. Any questions on that one? All right, now let's try example 2. This one looked easier than the last one or harder? Why does it look a little easier? Joe?
Because it's only, you have like 2 little 4 seconds.
You only have what?
You don't have to combine the 2.
Right, there's no like terms to combine. So he looked at the first step. There's no distributive property. As Mr. Roy said, I don't think we're going to do distributive property until tomorrow. But there's no like terms to combine. So simplify is already done for you. Now you can go right into the next step. Joe?
Okay, answer it.
You can just give me one step.
1 step, okay, so you add 2 to 4. We'll add 2 to negative 2 and then add 2 to 14.
All right, so we're going to do that. And Noah, what does that give me?
16.
Anything else? 4y, 16, like that? Just like that? Equals, yes. Yeah, Paige, you think you know the last step?
Divide 4 by both sides.
Yes, divide both sides by 4.
That's the number of the variable.
Divide by 4. And now we'll just simplify what's on the other side. How about Nathan?
4.
4, very good. Now, I don't know if the last one said check or not. This one, no, it didn't.
No.
This one says check. So, let's check it. Madison, can you remind me how I check it?
You put your answer in one variable.
Yeah, so we're going to copy down the same equation, except we're going to change the variable to what we think our answer is. So I have 4 times, don't put y, put in 4, minus 2, hopefully equals, we don't know yet, 14. Now, to check it, that's where you use PEMDAS. Follow your order of operations to simplify that. Gemini?
So you do 4 times 4,
Yep.
which is 16.
Okay.
And then 16 minus 2 equals 14.
14 equals 14. Does that mean our answer worked or didn't work? It worked. Yes. Okay. Any questions on that one? All right. So under the expert tutelage of Mr. Roy, he's going to guide you
How
through
about
example 3.
So how, obviously the numbers are different. Here's the first one we did. All right, this is example 2, here's example 3. How is, obviously we have different variables, we have a different variable, we have a different number, we have some different signs, but how else is example 3 different from example 2? What do you think, Mallory?
Because you have to use multiplication.
All right, we're going to use multiplication, right? How do you know?
Because it's division.
You just get the x over 5, so it's different because here we get something that's kind of like a fraction, all right? This one didn't have anything like that, so that's why it's a little bit different, all right? But again, don't get freaked out because it has a fraction in it. You can still do it. It's still going to follow the same exact steps, all right? Fred, what do you want to do first? Okay, that's the first step. Do we have simplify? We do? Okay. What are my like terms that I'm going to combine? Huh? 9, okay. And what else? Some remind Fred, how do we combine like terms? Joe?
Combining like terms is combining two, like how up on the board, how it has X, there isn't another letter to divide it to. So you can't.
We can't combine them, right? Where do they have to be located specifically? They're gonna be on the same side of the equal sign, right? So because, I know this, when you're thinking, Fred, that this kinda is a regular 5, but like this X is kinda like attached to it. So we can't do that. If there's like 1/5 plus 9, then we could do that. But because it has the X on top, we can't do anything like that. All right? Madison, what do you think you want to do first? So we just worked with Fred, and Fred told us that we can't combine like terms.
So you're gonna subtract 9.
Subtract 9, right? Because this is, granted it's not like next to it like the one we did before, but this has a variable attached. You always want to get the variable by itself. All right? So we're going to minus 9. Madison, where else am I going to minus 9 from?
13.
From 13. Good. When I do that, Madison, what do I get?
You get
4. Right? So I'm going to 4 equals x over 5. That's a 5, not an s, I'm sorry. X
And you do 5 times 5 on both sides.
times 5 on both sides, okay?
Then that cancels out. Then you left with 5. 4 times 5 equals 20, so x equals 20.
X equals 20. Right, and for this one, all we had to do was just solve. Right, when you have something like this, when you have just a variable on top and a number on the bottom, you're just going to multiply by the number that's on the bottom. I know there might be 1, maybe 2 that have something like that on the test, where it has a variable on the top, then a number on the bottom. We're going to treat it the same as if it was a fraction, right? Multiply by what's on the bottom, that's going to cancel it out. You're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Right, so there will be ones that's why we're putting them in the notes, guys, ones like this, because they're going to show up on the test. All right? So we're okay with that? Let's look at example 4. All right, so next, so the first 2 we did, right? The one we did, example 1, because we wanted to show you, because it was going along with the steps we put there, we wanted to show you we had to combine like terms. These last 2, we didn't. We didn't have to combine like terms. All right, we had that one, the 4y minus 2 equals 14, and we had the x over 5 plus 9 equals 13. There was no combined like terms. There was nothing that was the same on the same side of the equal sign. So now we're telling you guys that these ones we have to simplify. Remember, no distributive property today. We'll do distributive property tomorrow. We'll just add that one more step tomorrow. So we may get ones tomorrow where we have to simplify, so by doing the distributive property first and have some like terms after we distribute. So we'll have every step on some of the stuff we do tomorrow. But today, we'll have no distributive. All right? So this is what, example 4? So now we're going to solve and check. So we know, based on what we just talked about, we know that this example is going to have what step? Connor, what step from everything we wrote down? We just talked about it. What step is this equation going to have that the last 2 did not?
Multiplication, division.
Okay, we had multiplication and division in the last couple. We had addition and subtraction. The first one, we had this step, but the last 2 we did not. Look at your steps. What are we going to be able to do in this equation that we couldn't do in the last 2 others? All right, we're going to do, well, there's no x there. I agree with that. Do you know? Mallory? We're going to combine like terms. All right. Connor, can you tell me one of the numbers with a variable in that equation? And can you tell me what kind of a number it is, 2, positive or negative? I want to know a number with a variable.
-7.
Does that have a -7? Keep going. -7. -7 what? F, right? That's perfect. And I like how you said -7. How did you know that 7 was negative? Which side of it? Right, remember the sign to the left always goes with it. So this is going to be one number that has a variable, the -7. Connor, you might as well finish it off. What does that match up to?
9F.
9F, right? Those are like terms. Very good. Connor, do you want to do the math so we can simplify that? What does that say? What's this?
9F. 7F.
What's that?
7F.
Or it could be not negative, but it could be also be
9F.
minus. So what does it say? 9F.
Minus 7F.
So when you do that, what do you get?
1.
Close.
2.
Good. So I should should I just write 2?
Negative
No, I like the number 2. Don't change that. What should I write? 2,
2. F.
2F, right? Because I got to keep it, because I'm combining like terms, right? So I got to keep the F with it. That doesn't disappear. So I got 2F plus 4 equals 8. So Connor and his expert math skills just combine like terms for us. All right? So what I do sometimes, I circle them, and then so I don't get confused by everything happening on the paper, I just cross them out. If you can do it, you can do it quick. I don't have to do that. But for some of you guys, it's a good little tip to use. But some of you guys may not use that. You can just see it, do it. That's fine with us. But for some of you other guys, it might be a lot of numbers and it screws you up. If you want to circle them, that's fine. All right. Ginny, now what? So we just did the first step. We just did simplify. We combined like terms. Subtract 4, right? Very good. So minus 4, minus 4. What's going to happen, Ginny? Walk me through this. Okay. Perfect. 2F equals 4. What happens here? The positive 4 and the negative 4. This cancels out, right? So we want to get the variable by itself. That's why we did that. So now we get 2F equals 4. Perfect. Joe, help me out. Finish this off.
You divide 2 from both sides.
Divide by 2. Joe, can you explain to me why I wouldn't divide by 4?
Because it's not on the side of the letter.
The letter, or what's the vocab word for it? Starts with a V.
Variable.
Right? Remember, always divide by the number that has the variable attached. It's the only way it's going to work, right? Because that's going to cancel this out. Here's my equal sign. Joe, on this side, what am I going to have? F, right? Because it canceled out. That's what I want. Now, on this side? 2. F equals 2. Let's go back up. It says solve and check. All right? X. Can you tell me what to write?
You take your answer.
Okay, I'm going to take my answer. So 2.
Remember how to check it. 2.
We're going to check it the exact same way that we checked the other ones. How do we check the other ones? Don't remember? Sophia?
You have to put 2 in place of F, so 9 times 2 plus 4 minus 7 times 2
Yeah.
equals 8.
So in those spots, Mr. Hager set it up. Again, we talked about yesterday. Use parentheses in the spots where you're going to plug in your numbers. So here, this number is going to take the place of this letter. Right, the number takes the place of the letter. So there should, when you're solving, when you're checking, there should be no number. I mean, there should be no letters, no variables. Right, it's taking the place. Mallory, what's the first thing I should do over here?
Times 2 by 9 and 7.
Okay, what do I get?
18 and 14.
18 and
14.
Negative 14.
I like it. X, good catch, right? Because it's negative 7, but it's signed to the left. Negative 7 times a positive 2 is negative 14. What about that positive 4? What about that? Just let it hang out up top?
No, you're
No, just bring it down, right? And make sure you bring the sign down with it. So plus 4 equals, we don't know, we're checking, 8. 18 plus 4, what is it, guys? 22. Again, it's going to bring down the minus 14. Let's see if it equals 8.
Yes.
Is 22 minus 14, 8?
Yes.
8? Yes, it does. Alright, so as far as today goes, guys, that's probably going to be as difficult as it gets. Because you got like terms, you got like terms on both sides. You're going to combine like terms, right? Then get the variable by itself, and then either multiply or divide to solve. Right? This is about as far as we're going to go today. Like I said, tomorrow we'll get into doing distributed problem. All right? Ms. Baker, you want to look at that word? Want to take a look at that word problem?
We still have to do example 5.
Yeah, that's the word problem, right?
No, it's example 5 and.
Oh, okay, it's a 5. Okay, I'm sorry. My bad. I'll do 5. So this one guy, guys, you know what? We've talked for quite a bit. We're still going to talk you through that word problem. Why don't you guys try this one on your own right now? It's all pumped up.
All right,
I don't know to people.
so what's my first step here? Gemini?
Okay, so you look for distribution, which there is none.
Okay, no distribution.
And then since there is like terms, which is the negative 6W and 19W, you add those to the sarcasm.
Yes, negative 6W, 19W. What did we get when we combined those together?
13W.
13W.
I just tried to.
Okay, now you've combined like terms. What's your next step? After you combine like terms. Yes. You add 13 to both sides. Add 13. Add 13. What's on the left-hand side now? Just the left side.
13W.
Yep, 13W is still there. But what's negative 39 plus 13?
Negative 26.
Negative 26. And your last step. You got to get W by itself. Joe?
Divide 13 from each side.
Divide each side by 13.
And W equals negative 2.
Gotcha.
And what's negative 26 divided by 13?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. Okay, this one you don't have to check. It didn't say check. All right, so the last one we're going to look at, that's a word problem. And it has to do with an average. Okay, like adding up, I think it has to do with an average. Adding up a bunch of numbers and then dividing by how many you had to find an average. So what we're going to do is we're not going to find an average like, let's say you know all your test grades and then you average them and you figure out, your grade. What we're going to do is kind of work backwards. It's kind of like if I said to you, you got a 70 on the first test, you got a 75 on the second test, what would you have to get on the third test to make sure you have at least a 76 average for the term? Okay, so that's what we're going to kind of figure out here. So in this chart, okay, which you guys already have on your notes, it says use the table to find the number of miles you need to bike on Friday so that the mean, or what's another word for mean? Average. So the average number of miles biked per day is 5. All right, so somebody remind me again, how do you find an average? What do you do? Yep.
You add every option that you have together, and then you divide it by how many numbers you have.
Okay, so you add together everything you have, and you divide by how many there are. So we're going to find the average of these things. How many are there?
4.
5.
5. Right?
6.
Monday through Friday. So if there's 5 objects, or 5 days, what do we divide by?
5.
Divide by 5. Now, what are the 5 things we want to find the average of? 3.5, 5.5,
0 and 5.
0, 5, one more,
And then X.
and x. Now, what do we do with those things?
You add them all together.
You add them all together.
Bam, bam, bam.
And when I add them all together, what is that supposed to give me again? The average, or the mean. What did they say they want the average to come out to? We already know what we want the answer to be.
Like for 5 years,
How many? What's the average?
the number of miles. 14.05.
5. So we want this average to come out to 5. So what we're figuring it out is, what does this person have to bike on Friday to make that happen? Okay. Can somebody tell me what, let's just see if we can add this up. What's 3.5 plus 5.5?
Well, it's gonna be 9.
9. And then plus 0,
9.
that doesn't change it. And what's 9 plus 5?
14.
So we get 14 plus x divided by 5 equals 5. All right. Now, the next thing that we would want to do is, we have a fraction here, right?
C.
How do we get rid of this divide by 5?
Oh, you would, wouldn't you multiply 5 divided by 5?
Yeah, this one's a little different because you have two things in the numerator. So the first thing we'd like to do is get rid of that fraction. So we're going to multiply by 5, multiply by 5.
What I know it equals.
What happens when you divide by 5, multiply by 5? It cancels out.
Yeah, that's still a fraction, even though there's more than one term on the top.
What's on the left-hand side now?
Nothing.
14 plus x.
Equals
Yep.
14x.
And what goes on the right?
25.
25. And now my last step.
You would subtract 14 from each side.
Okay? So how many miles does this person have to bike on Friday to average 5 miles for the week?
11.
Nope, 12.
That's only 11.
25 minus 14? 11.
Sure.
Okay? So, any questions on that?
Get it. The wheels, the whole-
All right, so tell me what's happening on Friday?
A test.
Test. What's the test going to be on?
This
Everything
stuff
we've
we just
learned.
had to do. This subject, not this subject.
Everything we've learned so far. So it would be two-step equations. It would be
Basically solving equations. Okay, and that incorporates some of the review material, like you need to know how to add, subtract, negatives, positives.
You guys, that's the stuff we did for the review, guys, the stuff we did for the review is not specifically gonna be on there, like -2 plus 5, solve that, but you don't have to know how to make the figures, you have to know how to do it to be able to do this stuff.
So test on Friday. Make sure you sign up for Google Classroom by tomorrow. Okay, we're gonna use that at the end of class tomorrow.
And I think all you guys had a binder, I know we set them up yesterday, don't pack up, leave your notes out, put your notes in the notes section of your binder, but you might want them out because there are some practice problems. Plus, the space for your practice problems is on the back side of your notes.
Okay, and the homework, again, we're not gonna give you that yet, we're gonna have you do the practice problems first, but the homework tonight will be a worksheet on what we just did, 1.2 part 1.